The Awakening of Oblivion. The emergency klaxons wailed throughout the ONS Oblivion as another volley of plasma fire slammed into its experimental shields. Captain Mira Chen gripped the command rail, refusing to stumble despite the violent shuddering of the deck beneath her boots. Through gritted teeth, she surveyed the damage reports flooding the tactical displays. "Shields at 28%, Captain," Lieutenant Hayes reported, his fingers dancing across the defense console. "One more direct hit and we're finished." Chen's dark eyes narrowed as she studied the main view screen. 3 massive Nyx Imperium dreadnoughts loomed against the starfield, their insectoid forms bristling with weapon ports. Behind them, Earth hung like a fragile blue marble, already scared by the initial bombardment. The Nyx had arrived without warning 3 weeks ago, a vast armada of biomechanical ships controlled by a hive mind species that communicated their simple ultimatum: surrender or extinction. Humanity had chosen to fight. "Status of the quantum displacement drive," Chen demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting around her. Dr. Elena Volkov looked up from her specialized console, her face ghostly in the emergency lighting. "Charged to 89%, Captain. But I must emphasize that the displacement field has never been tested beyond theoretical parameters. If we activate it now, we'll die if we don't," Chen cut in. "The Oblivion is the only ship Earth has left with any chance of striking back. 20 billion people are counting on us." The bridge fell silent save for the wail of alarms and the hiss of ruptured conduits. Before the Nyx arrived, the Oblivion had been Earth's most closely guarded secret, an experimental warship equipped with a revolutionary quantum displacement drive, theoretically capable of phasing the vessel partially outside normal spacetime. It was humanity's greatest technological achievement, and now their last hope. Next flagship powering main cannon. Commander Jackson warned from tactical. "Impact in 15 seconds. Chen made her decision. "All power to the quantum drive. Prepare for displacement." Dr. Volkov's hands trembled slightly as she entered the activation sequence. "Quantum displacement initiating. Captain, I cannot guarantee where or when we'll emerge." "Anywhere is better than here, Doctor," Chen replied grimly. The humming from deep within the ship intensified, rising to a teeth-rattling whine, as reality itself seemed to bend around them. Through the view screen, Chen watched the next flagship fire, a blinding stream of energy lancing toward them. But before it could connect, the stars elongated and space folded in impossible ways. For a moment that stretched to infinity, there was only darkness and silence. Then the Oblivion snapped back into existence. The emergency lights flickered, then stabilized. The bridge crew blinked, disoriented. "Status report," Chen ordered, fighting her own disorientation. "All systems operational," Commander Jackson reported, sounding bewildered. "Minor damage to the outer hull, but otherwise, we're intact." "Where are we?" Chen asked, turning to Dr. Volkov, who was frantically analyzing data on her console. The scientist looked up, her face pale. "According to stellar positioning, we're approximately 63 light-years from Earth." "That's impossible," Chen said. "The drive's theoretical maximum was 5 light-years. "There's more," Volkov added, her voice dropping. "Based on quantum chronometric readings, we've also been displaced in time. We're 3 weeks in the past, Captain." Before the Nyx arrived at Earth, a heavy silence fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. 3 weeks, Chen repeated slowly. "Before the attack. Before 23 Earth colonies were reduced to ash." Commander Jackson leaned forward. "Captain, if we're truly 3 weeks in the past, we could warn Earth, prepare them for." "No," Dr. Volkov interrupted, shaking her head vehemently. "We can't risk direct interference with our own timeline. The quantum paradoxes could be catastrophic. We exist outside our normal time stream now, partially phase-shifted. If we create events that prevent our original displacement, we might cease to exist entirely. So we can't save them directly," Chen said, her eyes hardening. "But that doesn't mean we can't fight back." She stood and walked to the center of the bridge, looking at each of her officers in turn. The Nix thought they were invincible because they had superior numbers and firepower. But we now have something they can't comprehend. We can strike from outside their reality, from any point in space and time within this 3-week window. You're proposing we become ghosts, Jackson said, understanding dawning on his face. Hit-and-run attacks that they can't predict or defend against. Precisely, Chen nodded. Dr. Volkov, how long until we can activate the quantum drive again? Volkov checked her instruments. The displacement field needs approximately 20 hours to restabilize. But Captain, each jump puts incredible strain on the quantum matrix. I can't predict how many jumps we can make before the field collapses completely. Then we make each one count, Chen replied grimly. We'll gather intelligence on the Nix fleet, find their weaknesses, disrupt their supply lines. We'll become the nightmare they never saw coming. Lieutenant Hayes smiled for the first time since the attack began. Operation Phantom. Chen nodded, a cold determination settling over her. The Nix took everything from us. Now we become the vengeance of humanity. Within 48 hours, the ONS Oblivion made its first strike, materializing without warning beside an isolated Nix communications relay at the edge of the Sol system. Before the stunned Nix could respond, precision fire from the Oblivion's pulse cannons reduced the relay to debris. The human ship vanished before reinforcements could arrive, leaving behind only a simple message broadcast on all Nix frequencies. Remember Earth. Over the following days, similar attacks occurred across Nix-controlled space. A munitions depot destroyed, a scout ship disabled and its database copied, a refueling station sabotage. Each time, the Oblivion appeared without warning, struck with surgical precision, and vanished before the Nix could mount a defense. Each time, the same message: remember Earth. Within the vast command chamber of the Nix flagship, Supreme Executor Vexcara's chidness limbs clicked against the polished floor as the insectoid alien studied the holographic display showing the locations of each attack. Impossible, hissed Sub-Executor Zith. No human vessel possesses such technology. Their faster-than-light capabilities are primitive compared to ours. Yet the evidence is before us, Vexcara replied, compound eyes reflecting the holographic light. One ship striking anywhere, anytime, without warning or trace. The humans call it Oblivion, Zith noted. An appropriate name for a ghost. It is one ship, Vexcara clicked irritably. One ship cannot stand against the might of the Nix Imperium. One ship that we cannot track, predict, or defend against, Zith countered. One ship that seems to know our security protocols before we implement them. One ship that has already damaged 11 installations and stolen tactical data on our fleet movements. Vexcara turned all 4 eyes toward the sub-executor. Then we must adapt, delay the invasion of Earth, divert resources to finding this ghost ship. Whatever technology they're using has limitations. Find them. On the Oblivion, Captain Chen reviewed the stolen Nix tactical data with growing excitement. They're pulling ships back, she told her senior officers, delaying their attack on Earth while they try to find us. We've bought time, Commander Jackson acknowledged, but not much. The Nix still outnumber Earth's defenses 100 to 1. We need to do more than just delay them, Chen said. Dr. Volkov, what have you learned from the Nix technology we've salvaged? Volkov brought up a complex holographic display. The Nix use a form of quantum entanglement communication. It's instantaneous across vast distances and seemingly unhackable, unless you exist partially outside normal spacetime, as we do. You can intercept their communications, Jackson asked incredulously. Better, Volkov replied with a fierce smile. I believe we can infiltrate their hive mind network itself. Chen's eyes widened. That would give us access to their entire command structure. Yes, Volkov confirmed. But to establish the connection, we need to get within the quantum field range of their command ship, the same ship that nearly destroyed us before our first jump. Chen stood and walked to the viewport, staring out at the unfamiliar stars. How many more quantum jumps can we make, Doctor? Volkov's expression sobered. Based on the degradation rate of the displacement field, perhaps 7 or 8 before complete collapse. And what happens when it collapses? Chen asked quietly. Best case, we're stranded wherever we happen to be at the time. Worst case, the quantum instability creates a cascading temporal event that could tear apart reality in this entire sector. Chen turned back to her officers, her decision made. Then we make our remaining jumps count. We've been fighting defensively, but it's time to take the battle to the heart of the enemy. As they prepared for their most dangerous mission yet, none of the crew noticed the slight shimmer in space behind the Oblivion, a temporal echo, the first sign that the fabric of reality was beginning to strain under the weight of their impossible journey. Vengeance unbound. The vast command chamber of the Nyx flagship hummed with agitation. Supreme Executor Vexkera's compound eyes flicked between holographic displays, showing the latest attacks by the human ghost ship. 27 strikes in 16 days, each more devastating than the last. The human vessel targeted another weapons platform. Sub-Executor Zith reported, mandibles clicking nervously. As before, they appeared without warning, crippled our defenses, and vanished before our response fleet arrived. How? Vexkera demanded, chitinous limbs scraping against the floor in frustration. How does one primitive ship continue to evade the most advanced tracking systems in the galaxy? A junior executor approached cautiously. Supreme One, our scientists have analyzed the quantum fluctuations present at each attack site. The humans appear to be using some form of phase-shifting technology. They exist partially outside normal spacetime. Vexkera hissed, impossible. Such technology is theoretically beyond any known species. Yet the evidence suggests. The junior executor began. Silence. Vexkera interrupted. I want every available ship diverted to finding this Oblivion. Deploy temporal sensors at all critical installations, whatever their technological advantage. These humans cannot be everywhere at once. Hidden in the shadow of a rogue planet, at the edge of Nyx space, the ONS Oblivion prepared for its next attack. Captain Chen studied the intelligence they had gathered through Dr. Volkov's quantum infiltration of the Nyx communication network. The Nyx are deploying their entire reserve fleet to hunt us, Chen informed her senior officers. They've delayed their attack on Earth by 14 days. We've bought Earth time. Commander Jackson said, but not enough. Our intelligence shows they're still planning the invasion, just with additional precautions against us. Chen nodded grimly, which means we need to strike a decisive blow, not just harassment attacks. Captain, Dr. Volkov interrupted, her face grave. I must report that the quantum displacement field is degrading faster than I projected. Each jump creates minute tears in spacetime that aren't healing properly. We have perhaps 4 jumps remaining before catastrophic collapse. A heavy silence fell over the briefing room. 4 jumps, Chen repeated quietly. Then we make them count. She activated a holographic display showing a massive structure orbiting a distant star. This is the Nyx central hive nexus, the physical hub of their collective consciousness. Our intelligence indicates that if it's destroyed, the entire Nyx command structure would be thrown into chaos. It's also the most heavily defended installation in Nyx space, Jackson pointed out. Even with our phase-shifting abilities, we couldn't get close enough to strike it directly. Not with conventional weapons, Chen agreed. She turned to Dr. Volkov. Doctor, you mentioned that when our quantum field eventually collapses, it could create a cascading temporal event. Volkov's eyes widened as she realized what Chen was suggesting. You want to weaponize the collapse itself, direct it at the hive nexus. Is it possible? Chen asked. Volkov hesitated. Theoretically, yes. If we could modify the quantum displacement drive to focus the collapse into a directed wave. But Captain, the risks are enormous. We'd need to be inside the facility to ensure precise targeting, and we'd have no escape afterward. It would be a one-way mission. For Earth, Chen said simply, looking at each of her officers in turn. No one objected. Over the next 72 hours, the crew of the Oblivion prepared for their final mission. They made one more quantum jump to a remote asteroid field, where Dr. Volkov and her engineering team worked tirelessly to modify the displacement drive. The modifications are complete, Volkov reported as Chen joined her in engineering. When activated, the drive will create a controlled quantum collapse focused in a directional wave. Anything caught in that wave will be erased from our timeline. And the Oblivion? Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. We'll be at the epicenter of the collapse, Volkov replied softly. There's no surviving that, Captain. Chen nodded, having accepted this outcome days ago. How many of the Nexus will it affect? If we can position ourselves within their central Nexus chamber, the wave should erase their entire command hierarchy and the hive mind network that connects them. Without it, their fleet becomes just ships without coordination, dangerous, but no longer an unstoppable force. Enough for Earth to have a fighting chance, Chen concluded. She placed a hand on Volkov's shoulder. Prepare for our final jump. It's time. The Oblivion's last quantum displacement was its most difficult. As the drive engaged, the ship shuddered violently, the hull groaning under the strain of bending increasingly fragile reality. When they emerged, alarms blared across every console. Multiple hull breaches, Jackson reported as emergency force field containment activated. Displacement field integrity at critical levels. Where are we? Chen demanded, steadying herself against the command rail. Direct hit, Volkov confirmed, her voice filled with wonder despite the chaos. We're inside the central chamber of the Nix Hive Nexus. Through the view screen, Chen could see the vast biological mechanical structure surrounding them. Thousands of Nix connected to pulsing organic technology, their collective consciousness forming the strategic brain of their empire. Warnings of approaching Nix security vessels filled the tactical displays. They've detected us, Jackson warned. We have minutes at most before they overwhelm our remaining defenses. Chen straightened her uniform and surveyed her bridge crew one last time. It's been an honor serving with all of you. For Earth. For Earth, they responded in unison. She turned to Dr. Volkov. Initiate quantum collapse. Volkov's hands moved across her console, entering the final command sequence. Collapse sequence initiated. 30 seconds to complete destabilization. Around them, the Oblivion began to glow with unearthly blue-white energy as the quantum field that had allowed them to move through space and time began its final, catastrophic breakdown. The first Nix security vessels opened fire, but their energy weapons passed harmlessly through the Oblivion's increasingly phase-shifted hull. 10 seconds. Through the view screen, Chen could see the Nix in the chamber becoming agitated as they sensed something unprecedented occurring in their midst. 5 seconds. Remember Earth, Chen whispered. The quantum field collapsed. For a fraction of a second, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then from the Oblivion, a wave of temporal energy erupted outward, washing over the Nix Hive Nexus. Where it passed, matter simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, but erased from the timeline entirely. The wave expanded outward, encompassing the Nexus and every Nix connected to it, before dissipating into harmless quantum fluctuations. In orbit around Earth, 3 weeks later, the massive Nix invasion fleet suddenly faltered. Ships drifted out of formation as the coordinating signals from the Hive Nexus abruptly ceased. Some vessels crashed into one another, while others fired randomly, their crews thrown into confusion without the guiding intelligence of their collective. Earth's defense forces, prepared and waiting thanks to the intelligence gathered over preceding weeks from an unknown source, seized their opportunity. They launched a coordinated counterattack against the disorganized Nex Armada. The battle was fierce, but no longer one-sided. With their command structure erased from existence and their hive mind in chaos, the Nix fought as individuals for the first time in their species' history. They were still formidable, but no longer invincible. One by one, the Nyx ships were destroyed or forced to retreat. The invasion that should have ended humanity became instead humanity's first step onto the galactic stage. In the aftermath, as Earth began the long process of rebuilding its devastated colonies, strange stories circulated among the survivors. Tales of a ghost ship that had appeared from nowhere to strike at the Nyx before they could complete their attack. A ship that vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving only a simple message: "Remember Earth." Official records listed the ONS Oblivion and her crew as missing in action, presumed destroyed in the initial Nyx assault. Only a handful of high-ranking officials knew the truth, that somewhere, someone, Captain Mira Chen and her crew had made the ultimate sacrifice, erasing themselves from existence to give humanity a future. Meanwhile, at the edge of explored space, temporal sensors detected a faint anomaly. A quantum echo, the last ripple of an event that both had and hadn't happened, a whisper of the Oblivion, forever echoing across space-time. A reminder that even against impossible odds, humanity would not go quietly into oblivion. They would become it. The end.